All
Thank
right.
you.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to CoCreation Station, the podcast where we talk about spirituality and the magical journey of life and the law of attraction, of course. My name is Collin. I'm a life coach, tarot, oracle card reader, and medium.
My name is Stephanie, and I am a transformational life coach.
And today's episode, we have a very special guest with us. We have Dr. Kris Brew from Vitality Chiropractic in San Diego. See, I told you
Yeah,
I'd mess it up a little bit.
Guys.
that's okay. Hi, Dr. Kris.
We are super psyched to have you here, Dr. Kris. Welcome to CoCreation Station. I would like to. Did you want to start off, Stephanie, or?
Oh my gosh. Thank you for joining us, Dr. Kris. You are our second guest. And yeah, so Dr. Kris is my chiropractor. Was it '09, Dr. Kris? Because I came across, okay, I came across some journaling a couple weeks ago, and I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't know I had journaled about this. So I didn't journal about this part, but I didn't know I had broken a bone in my foot. I just thought I twisted my ankle. And months later, when it didn't get better, I went and got an x-ray, and he's like, oh yeah, you broke a bone in your foot. I'm like, what? But during that whole time, I had my personal assistant business. I kept walking dogs. I kept doing everything, but I think it was my left. So I was, compensating with leaning more on my right side. And then my hip started bothering me. And so I had gone into the Healthy Back store in Hillcrest to look for, because when I would drive in my car, I was so uncomfortable. I was in pain. And I thought, oh, I just need a cushion for my seat. Well, Dr. Kris had her table set up in the inside the store, and I was sitting in one of the chairs and relaxing, enjoying the massage chairs or whatever, and we're chatting for quite a while. And she said to me, she said, she's telling me all a bunch about chiropractor, and I had seen a chiropractor before, but she said, you're really just kind of by putting just a cushion in your chair, you're really just putting a band-aid on the real problem. And I was like, huh. And I remember using the restroom, going to go use the restroom, and I was in there, looked myself in the mirror, and I said, oh, wow, Steph, you're just putting a band-aid on the situation. And so I came back and I said, I would like to take you up on your offer. It was a complimentary session, and so that was the beginning of like 12 years, Dr. Kris.
Yes,
Yeah.
12 years.
And in that whole 12 years, I only stopped seeing her for 3 months. And I started having pains, and I'm like, okay, I got to go back to her. And I've seen you for every 2 weeks for that. And oh my God, you've helped me so much, which we'll go into later, and I'll be quiet. So you're amazing. I've referred you to friends, family. You've seen my daughter, my grandkids, my son in law, um, my other really good friend. And so, what got you into chiropractic? Like, did you always want to be a chiropractor, or?
No, actually, chiropractic, I think, is my third or fourth career.
Oh,
Actually started off studying communications at Cal State Fullerton, and I emphasized in radio, TV, film. So I was in a completely different world. Working initially, I started at a television station, and I worked as an audio engineer for a while in multimedia. And it took me quite a few years before I started heading into holistic healthcare. It was just by chance that I had a pretty severe injury I wasn't healing from. And that was really the foray into holistic health for me. And along that time period, I had an amazing bodywork session massage from somebody who really opened up my eyes to alternative healing.
mm,
And that was the very beginning of it all. And from there, it led to me doing some internal reflection of where I was at in my life and what was important to me. And I decided to change my career and began studying massage. And that was back in the 90s. Yeah. And then from there, it just branched out, and I kept meeting different folks that, inspired me to chiropractic.
who was the main person, would you say, that inspired you to be a chiropractor?
So my main inspiration came from a doctor named Randy Crisp, and he was in practice for his entire life, over 3 years. And I met him during my time at Ipsby, which was a local massage school here. And
yeah, I've been there.
yes, I began working with him as his assistant, and then I would do massage when we weren't helping patients, and I would schedule massages. And during that time period, I really realized how beneficial chiropractic was for the mind, the body, the spirit. And I saw amazing healing transformations happening with our patients and with myself. It was the first time I really began feeling what it felt like to function at my optimum level. And that was it for me. He really inspired me to then go back to school. So at age 38, I
wow.
went back to chiropractic school. Unfortunately, he passed away, and he was really kind of setting me up to practice with him. He was grooming me to take over the practice as he began to retire.
Wow.
So it inspired me to really put that effort forth immediately to get back to school and do what I really realized was my life mission.
That's so awesome. Wow.
To help others, and I've never, ever looked back. So Dr. Kris was really the main catalyst that pivot and change and understand that was my true calling.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then do you have like a specialty? Like, do you, I know in your office, you have this beautiful board of all these beautiful children that you've helped over the years.
Yes.
Was that something like when you became a chiropractor that you were like, oh, I want to work with kids, or did it just kind of organically happen?
You know, it's interesting, Stephanie and Collin. No, I had no intention whatsoever of working with children. After completing my doctorate, I was in the Bay Area studying, and then I came back down to San Diego and relocated. And I really wanted to serve my immediate community, you know, Hillcrest, University Heights, Mission Hills, that community. And I had no thought of adjusting children. I happened to take a continuing education class with a fellow colleague of mine up in San Francisco one weekend, and we were learning the Webster technique. So the Webster technique is designed to help pregnant mamas with an easier time during their process of being pregnant, during the delivery and labor, and it sets them up for success. So I, on a whim, took this class really just to go to San Francisco and visit my friend, and really enjoying the process. I learned enjoying the technique, and organically I began to attract pregnant women into my practice. No surprise.
We were just talking about attracting.
So I later realized that, you know, that energy of me beginning to adjust the pregnant mamas was then leading and opening to me adjusting the children. And I became more and more comfortable, and I began experiencing so much joy educating the moms, helping the kids, educating the kids on how they can take care of themselves differently, that they can completely change their health outcome moving forward as adults. Over these last 12 years of practice, I've adjusted, like your family, Stephanie, many families through their growing up period.
Yeah, my grandkids love you. Like, they just like adore you.
And I adore them.
Yeah. Collin, do you get adjusted by your chiropractor?
I do. My sister Kelly, who we hope will also join us on the podcast at some point.
Yeah, she's awesome too, like you, Dr. Kris.
Yeah, has been a chiropractor in Maine, where I'm from, for many years. And yeah, I mean, it's interesting because I think there's so much more awareness today of not just chiropractic exists, but also of its benefits. But I'm sort of surprised how often I bump into people who I was just talking to a friend of mine last week, actually, who has had a chiropractor, switched chiropractors, and likes both of them, but doesn't really understand what they're doing. And I was like, really? And I'm like, yeah, they've never really talked to me about what's going on. I just sort of go in and they do things to my back and then I leave and I feel better, but I don't know what they're doing. And it's sort of like, I think that there's a need for just continued education of people about the holistic side of chiropractic, because there's the other side of people who are just what my sister calls the backcrackers, who are into pretty much just like traditional pain management. It's like if you injure your back in a car accident, come see us, we'll fix you in 4 weeks and then you never have to see us again. That's been tradition. That was the larger side of chiropractic for a long time, and now the scales have sort of shifted, and the larger community is people who practice chiropractic who are looking at the whole holistic health. And like, this is something that, you know, you need to integrate into your life, because we do such amazing damage to our spines as we go from childhood to adulthood, traditionally, like most people do. And still, like, if you've had misalignments and things like that, or just bad physical habits, even if you get your spine adjusted and correctly and it's in the right space and everything, it's still going to want to move out of sync, you know, over time. So it's regular chiropractic is something to help your whole, you know, as Dr. Kris said, mind body system. So yeah, I've been getting adjusted for a long time. I have a really great chiropractor here in Los Angeles.
Oh, awesome.
But one thing I wanted to sort of pivot off that and ask Dr. Kris, because I watched your Vitality Chiropractic introductory video, what I'd call the red dot video, which I loved. And one thing you said in there, like, I mean, I appreciated everything you said. And then you got to the section in the middle, I was like, this is I'm so excited about this, which is because I think today there's at least a discussion in the health, you know, community about holistic health in terms of unifying, like, the physical, like fitness, and like maybe meditation, and maybe like chiropractic care and things like that. But you talked about like an even larger understanding of holistic health, including, do you like your work? Like, do you like the job you do all day? Are you expressing your natural creativity, or are you stifling it? You know, I mean, when you said that, I was like, my mind was blown. I was like, because I know people that like the whole repressed creativity thing is one of my niches that I'm interested in. And I know so many people who are like almost intentionally like not being creative, who have health issues. And I'm always in my mind, I'm like, that's interesting.
Right.
Can you talk a little bit about how like you got to that level of understanding of like how many things that we do in our life are connected to our health?
Absolutely, Collin. Yeah, I love that. And that's one of the things that I feel really kind of sets me apart from a lot of my colleagues. And many years ago, I began reading the works of Dr. Joe Dispenza, who chiropractor who then went on to study neurobiology. And he does incredible work in understanding the connection between the mind and the body, and how our very thoughts can impact our physicality. And he talks about how these thoughts can repress our immune response, it can repress our creativity, all of these different aspects of our body. And that when our system is really functioning at its highest, and we're really focusing on thinking about things that bring us joy, and thinking and doing work that brings us joy, and having relationships that, again, bring us joy, that are fulfilling, that the more we can create that within our life, the healthier we're going to be. One of the tools that I've learned from him, Dr. Dispenza, is using meditation. And that too, Collin, is a huge vehicle for creativity and expression, because when we're in that altered state is when we're truly in the subconscious, where that creativity can flow. And Dr. Dispenza has been able to tie in that when we get into that deeper state, our bodies are going into a healing response, what we call the parasympathetic state, which is the rest and relaxation, the healing response. during our regular normal hours, we tend to be more in the sympathetic or fight and flight state. So one of the goals that I have set for myself and for my patients is helping us all get more into that parasympathetic state. And we can do that through chiropractic adjustments. We can do that through meditation. We can do that following a great exercise, eating really good foods, through psychology, doing self-work. I mean, the list goes on and on and on of how we can attain that state. But being a creative person myself and really loving to tap into that, because my work can be and it needs to be very creative, as well as my own self-expression, is I think essential for health and happiness. So does that answer your question, Collin?
Yes, it does. That's awesome.
Great.
Well, and we were just talking it's a pre-show now, about this wonderful manifestation that Collin had, and he had 5 hours of joy and laughter and connection and stimulating his mind. And I was like, Collin, do you know, like 5 hours of laughter and joy, like your health, like your whole body, you're just like, do you know what you were doing? Like, oh my God, that was like amazing. And I couldn't even come up with a word. I wanted to use steroids, but that's not even right. But just like what you were doing for your whole beingness to be in that state, it's like, holy moly, like rocket going off and everything just getting better.
Yeah.
And, to expand on that, Steph, right? When Collin was in that state, his brain was creating new neural pathways, firing things off differently, releasing great healthy chemicals, whole entire system. So the more we can be in that creative state, the more we're building those neural pathways, we're creating better brain health, which turns create better physical health.
Yeah, exactly. And not to mention like all the other positive emotions with, like connecting and then I apologize, I'm overstepping, Collin, but it was just like some past, childhood stuff. It just like had a whole opposite experience that was positive. And so it healed some of that as well. And so again, like health, right? Mental, emotional, spiritual health. So yeah, I wanted to go into a little bit because you've really helped me a lot with this NET, which tell us a little bit about that, because you practice that, and I don't know that a lot of chiropractors do. Maybe they do. I don't know, but
I think there's definitely a small group of us that practice NET is short for NeuroEmotional Technique, and it's a little more of a specialty technique. And a couple local doctors here in San Diego, the Walkers, created that technique quite a number of years ago. And it was my mentor, Dr. Randy Crisp, who actually taught me the technique when I was apprenticing.
Thank you, Dr. Crisp.
Yes. so important in my journey. And the technique was created to help our bodies release emotional stress and trauma that it may be internalizing. Typically, we're able to process and release emotions organically through, say, exercise or playing music or dancing.
Journaling.
What's that?
Journaling.
Yes, expressing, talking about things. And then there's times when the trauma can override the system, and then on a cellular level, our bodies will hold on to that emotional trauma. So the Walkers created the technique to help the practitioner assist the patient's body in releasing those emotions so that they're not creating any detrimental effects on their body. So again, it kind of goes back to this whole chemical process that can happen during trauma, with these certain chemicals being released with the trauma that are just being reinforced maybe with a current trauma. So like Collin, when you had that great experience with that 5 hours of joy, there's a high probability you were able to release some old traumas with that experience, that then it frees your mind and your body to heal more properly and deeply. So it's a favorite technique of mine to utilize, especially because most of these emotions sit in what we call the subconscious part of the mind. It's not our conscious thinking. So we might be having a stress, say the pandemic stress that we've been in for last year, but that stress that we're under could be triggering something from our childhood that might be creating a flare up in our present day situation. This is where this technique is so valuable, and that we're able to figure out what emotions the body is holding on to, and then tracing it back to what we call the original picture, the first time the mind and body ever had that similar type of experience, or this similar set of emotions.
Yeah, you've actually used this process on me many times over the years, and I'm extremely thankful that you use it, because I've had a wonderful response to it. And one of the things that comes to mind is my dog Jessie that I had for probably 10 years. She passed away in 2010, and I didn't even realize at the time how emotionally attached I was to her and how much joy she brought me until she was gone. And I was like, oh my God. And I remember for weeks and months, if I saw someone walking their dog, I would cry. Like, that is how sad I was. And you adjusted me one day, and I was talking to you about this, and you're like, well, let's do some NET. And you did, the whole process. And I remember driving home from that treatment, and in my neighborhood, I saw this woman walking her dog, and I was like, oh, look how sweet. And it was the first time since she had passed that I did not cry when I saw someone with their dog. That is how powerful. And that's just one example in my life of you using NET on me and me having a positive healing result from it. So I'm very lucky to have you. Thank you for walking into my life that day.
Well, thank you, Stephanie. Well, we know there are no accidents.
Right? I totally attracted her. And vice versa, because right, like I think ideally patients, clients, whatever, the ones, and I think you said this to me one day, it's like the ones who refer us are like the best. That's like the best compliment, but to keep our business growing and thriving and to do what we love, like, yeah. So I want to talk a little bit about, I think a lot, like I'm 56, and because I see you regularly, and you are definitely like someone who Collin was talking about earlier, about that some chiropractors do not educate their patients about what's going on and what the chiropractic process is like. And something I've known about you for a long time is like, I would come in and you'd have a question for the week, or you would start to explain things like what you're actually doing and how it's working, and so I've learned so much from you about that, and I think it's wonderful. And one of the things I know is a lot of people my age and younger are walking around with chronic pain.
Mm-hmm.
And I think as a society, especially in the US, we think as we get older, we're going to deteriorate and just degenerate, and like we can't live healthy, thriving lives as seniors. And I don't even like to think of myself as a senior, but anyways, and I really feel that that's incorrect, and that there are plenty of people who are getting older who are thriving even more so now than before. Can you talk a little bit about that, about how it really isn't consistent to our way we're built, and how life is really meant for us humans to go on into our older years?
Steph, yeah, you bring up such a great point. And, and of course, that's where I met you, was when I was out doing community outreach and education. That's been one of my important goals with my practice, is educating the public on what we do as chiropractors. And, I remember going to the Healthy Back store once every Saturday in the month and reaching out and trying to help people understand exactly what you're talking about. We can live our lives in a manner of better health and better functionality. My mom is a great example of this, Steph and Collin. She's 78 years old. She takes no prescription medications. She's vibrant. She's healthy. She's strong. And many people think she's much younger than she is. a lot of it has to do with the fact she's been under regular chiropractic care since 1986.
Oh, wow.
She really began to understand the importance of taking care of her health in her younger years. And it's all about reducing your stress on your system. That's really the key of it all. When you can reduce your physical stress, whether it's, macro traumas like having falls, or maybe those minor traumas like working at a desk all day, the mental emotional stress, when you can reduce that and manage your life differently, choose healthier relationships, deal with problems when they come up.
Yeah.
Your career, like I did, if you weren't happy, shifting out of that. And then the biochemical stress is that third stress that we look at as chiropractors, in understanding that the foods we put into our body, our environmental stressors, prescription medications.
Water.
Pardon me?
Water. Drinking enough water.
Yes, right. A lack of water could create a biochemical stress on your body. That when you're keeping the best balance you can physically, mental, emotionally, and biochemically, you're going to have a healthier, happier, longer life. And yes, I'm a firm believer we can reduce our pain through the years too. And it's all about keeping motion in your body. So many people think keeping motion is just nothing but exercising, right? Well, that's a part of it. That's one of the 5 factors of health that I look at. But oftentimes the chiropractic care, I think, even supersedes that, in that we're keeping joint health, we're keeping motion in the joints, which then actually helps the brain communicate better with the body. So when the brain and the body are working together in synchronicity, you're going to have less likelihood of having falls or developing any kind of functional issues like stomach problems or heart problems. So it's just this beautiful symphony of it all coming together. And as we're aging, keeping these healthy habits is essential.
Yeah.
All the things that I asked my
preventive maintenance.
Yeah, it prevents things from happening. All the things I ask my patients to do, I'm doing myself, because over trial and error all through the years, I've begun to understand that I must get adjusted once a week to stay healthy and strong, to be able to serve my patients to the best that I can. I'm getting acupuncture regularly, massage regularly. I'm eating great foods. I'm going to bed at a consistent time. I could go on and
You're
on.
playing your drums.
I'm bringing joy to my body, my mind, and spirit, playing my drums.
And then rest too, right? Because I hear you a lot of times. Yeah.
Yes.
Can you?
And the consistency of the rest is really important.
Yeah, Dr. Kris, I mean, this sounds like it might be a very basic question, but I'm imagining people watching this will have a range of experience, from they go to a chiropractor every week already to like they literally have no idea what happens. Can you just explain, sort of at a basic level, why the spine and making sure it's aligned is so important? Because I think some people just think of it as like, well, they're bones in my body, so if they're messed up, I get it. But as I've learned from my sister, it's so much more than that because of what the spine actually contains and does. Can you talk a little bit about that for people who have like zero familiarity?
Great question, Collin. So I look at the vertebrae, the spine, as the portal of entry to help the body function better. So essentially, I see myself as a doctor of the nervous system, because I'm directly affecting the sensory aspect. So that's our feeling. So when we have pain, that's our sensory part firing off. With the adjustment, we're affecting the motor system. That's your muscles, that's your movement. That makes up roughly 45% of the nervous system. For another 45% is the autonomic system. So that's all the major systems of the body. That's your respiration, digestion, immune system. And then that sensory part that I talked about, first of all, it makes up roughly 10 to 12%. So we're not feeling necessarily everything that's happening in our body. So when we're adjusting the spine, we're making sure the joints don't have any dysfunction and that they're moving properly. So then it allows the nerves and all the little receptors in the joint to be able to communicate at their highest. I'm applying an adjustment to a vertebrae, the receptors inside the vertebrae are getting that information, and they're taking that and they're taking it up different spinal tracts in your spinal cord. Then it's going to various areas of the brain to help you integrate into your environment better. It helps you with your balance. It fires off chemicals to improve your immune system response. It's an amazing array of things that happens to the brain with that connection with the vertebrae moving efficiently and effectively. So it's helping open up the communication system for the body to heal. So when I'm adjusting you, it's just allowing more, facilitating more healing for the system. So it goes well beyond, like you said, maybe a bone that's misaligned. It goes deeper into actual functionality. So you could even have a little bit of stress that might interfere with that communication. And it could very well be, say, an emotional stress, like the pandemic, that could create this, basically the symphony of ill events that happen that decreases the communication with your immune system. That's where I step in and I say, oh, okay, we're going to adjust these certain vertebrae because I know they're not moving in time and space properly to help those signals flow, to help your innate intelligence to really heal itself. It's very complex, but it's very simple at the same time.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and you said innate, because our bodies are naturally, everything's there, right? All the chemicals, it's just the nervous system, everything is just, and it heals itself, right? Our body can heal itself,
Yeah.
but sometimes because of stress or, a fall or whatever it may be, it's not able to. And that's where chiropractic comes in and helps it come back into balance, where it can just naturally heal and do its incredible healing that
And
it does.
it's interesting you bring that up, Steph, because that's one of the things that really sets us apart from any other profession. A lot of people ask me, well, what you do, how is that different than, say, a physical therapist? And Collin, I'm sure your sister, Dr. Kelly, could speak of this as well, is that we are really led by a set of philosophical principles of what we do. And there's 33 guiding principles. And that we understand, most importantly, is that the body is a self-healing organism. And when it has the capability to express that healing capacity, that innate, we call it the innate intelligence, then it can heal itself.
That's beautiful.
Seems it's interesting because as we explore we talked to different people, like the Alexandra technique teacher we talked to last month on that episode. We keep hitting this theme of like blockages and letting things flow, and it's, I think mentally, people can be working really hard at something and not having success, or not welcoming in, not receiving what they think they ought to get in terms of money or love and relationships or that sort of thing. And so often it's the fact that they're thinking thoughts all day long about like, why can't I find the right person for me? And why won't my employer pay me what I'm worth, and all that sort of stuff. And, for Stephanie and I as life coaches, like one of our things is to sort of identify those sorts of misalignments, in our thinking, and get those moving so that the, our mental connection and our spiritual connection is flowing better, so that stuff, the stuff people want flows into their life. And it's just fascinating to me that on a pure biological level, there's a very similar thing going on with the body's neural network and the spine and everything. Like we have these misalignments, and the solution is getting them more aligned to where they naturally would have been had we not messed them up with other things. And once we get that flow going, like good stuff flows, it's just really interesting to me.
And with chiropractic, the health flows and things get better and people heal. And yeah. What are some of, practice for 12 years? Oh my goodness, you've probably seen pretty much everything and anything has walked into your door as far as misalignment and just major pain. Like, does something strike you as some stories, people that have come to you that it's just been phenomenal of the turnaround with your assistance as a chiropractor?
I somebody who came to mind immediately is a wonderful gentleman who I've been working with, I want to say about 4 years now, and he has Parkinson's disease. And he had previously been getting chiropractic care. Oh, my pup is in the room with us, you guys.
Hey!
He had previously been getting chiropractic care. And when he relocated here to San Diego, he found me. We were local, so we were close for him.
Yay.
And it's really been wonderful to watch him continue to work on himself and continue his healing process and his healing journey. And understanding that he's not going to be able to reverse the effects of Parkinson's, but to reduce the stress that we can to help him live a happy and full life. That's been really rewarding. And talk about creativity, you guys. He's a writer, and he loves to write poems. He's written 2 books. And I feel privileged to work and help facilitate on whatever level I can to help him be happier and healthier, and reduce the pain he feels and help him. Really, the mobility is one of the biggest things we see improvements with. So, yeah.
That's pretty awesome. A neighbor has Parkinson's, and years ago when he was diagnosed, I brought up chiropractic, and I think it goes back to, we talk about this a lot on our episodes, is choice. We all have a choice. I get to choose whether I'm going to focus on what feels good, or if I'm going to choke, yeah, on what doesn't. Does it serve me or does it hurt me? And he chose not to. See a chiropractor, and now I've just, over the years, have watched him decline, and it's a beautiful man, beautiful soul, very loving, and it's really hard for me to witness this. And yet I can see where if he had done certain things, he may be having a different experience now. But again, we all get to choose, right? Like we do in life, what our experiences, and and then by our choices, the outcome of those choices. So thank you for sharing. For anyone who's watching, anyone who knows of someone who has Parkinson's, I'm happy to hear that it does make a positive impact on their experience. Does it slow down the declining?
Well, what I can share with you is he's had, each year he goes in for neurological testing to see where he's at. And they do psychological testing as well. And he's been kind of holding strong. He hasn't declined at all.
That's amazing.
Scores have looked a little bit better. So, I'd say I can't make any claim that the chiropractic is necessarily, but I think we're helping him stay steady.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
That's impressive. Yeah, that's wonderful. Thank you for sharing that.
Well, Dr. Kris, I'm so happy that you joined us here today. Thank you so much for taking the time. I feel like the 3 of us could talk forever, but we have to limit the episode so it's not 6 hours long. But thank you so much for being here and sharing so much about your experience and your knowledge and things that I think a lot of people really can benefit from hearing. It was really great to have you here. I want to make sure that we'll put a link to your red dot video in the comments, and also your web information, everything. But for people who are just listening in the car or something, is there a easy way that they can get in touch with you?
Absolutely. Our phone number at the office is 619-299-9722, or you can just go to our Vitality Chiropractic website, which is vitalitychirocenter.com.
Yay. Yeah. Do yourself a favor and do that if you're local.
I want to thank you both so incredibly much for having me on your show and allowing me to speak about chiropractic, which is my life passion. And it's been fun. It's been a great time. I knew it would be. So I thank you for your time and allowing me to share with you guys.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Thank you. It's our privilege.
It's our pleasure. Thank you so much for being here. Before we go, Stephanie, if people want to get in touch with you.
www.powerinjoy, powerinjoy.com. And if you're interested, I have a free 30-minute discovery session for you.
And you can always get in touch with me at my website, collinworster.com. It's Collin with 2 L's and then WORSTER.com. Thank you so much if you're listening to the audio version of the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen. Thank you so much. If you're watching us on YouTube, thank you so much for watching us there. If you feel called to like us or subscribe to us, please do so. We are very grateful to you. It helps us a lot. And we will see you next week on the next episode of Co-Creation Station. Have a great week, everybody.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.